James the Red Engine is a key character of Thomas the Tank Engine. From his first appearance in 1946 and beyond, James has been a noteworthy character and become a main character in whatever form the franchise took. Many associate James with his iconic bright red paint, prideful and boastful attitude, and his vain ways.
You should be carried by a really splendid engine, like me, sir.
Typical James, always trying to get the best jobs.
However, there may be more to James than we think. Today, we'll be looking into the question, does James have anxiety?
Suddenly he heard an engine whistling, "Help! Help!" A goods train came rushing through much too fast. The engine was James, and he was frightened. His brake blocks were on fire.
James is introduced to us in books and TV series the same way. A new engine on the island, painted black with wooden brake blocks. On the day of his arrival, he pulls a goods train, but ends up becoming a runaway. His wooden brakes become ablaze. This leads to a distressing and destructive crash that resulted in James being severely damaged. He's sent away for repairs and returns with his iconic splendid red paint and new brakes. But what if James's crash caused more harm than we initially thought? This could have led to him dealing with high levels of anxiety, which has affected him on a psychological level. This could explain his behavior in many scenarios throughout the show. There's many factors that back this up. First is his hatred towards trucks and goods work. James much prefers pulling shiny, clean coaches and goes to many lengths to avoid doing any sort of goods work. This even goes to the extent of lying. James may have subconsciously developed strong anxiety of pulling trucks after his accident. This anxiety then caused him to behave erratically when faced with the idea of goods work. For example, in the Season 3 episode, No Joke for James, James deceives Thomas for the purpose of taking the express instead of a goods train. Although he had his reasons for doing this, his choice of action still remains. Gordon comments that he just views James as just goods engine.
I'm the pride of the line. I saw you pulling trucks today. You're only a goods engine, snorted Gordon. James was furious. I pull coaches too. Not as much as I do, grunted Gordon.
Gordon's declaring that James is only suitable for goods trains could have stirred up James's trauma from the crash, leading him to realize how much more vulnerable he is in comparison to Gordon. We didn't have the chance to spend a lot of time with James prior to his accident, so we don't understand much about his point of view preceding the crash. Consequently, we can only assume he developed a fear of trucks as a result of his accident. Having a genuine fear of trucks would explain many other events that happened in the show, and his constant hatred towards them. Secondly, is his constant worrying about his appearance. James is well known for his splendid red paint, always boasting about it to no end and making sure he looks his best.
Soon James was showing off his paintwork. Make way for an important engine!
Prior to his crash, he was colored black, making him appear very uninteresting and not reflective of his current persona. It's evident that something has changed along the way. If his paint gets dirtied or scratched, James acts out dramatically. For example, in the Season 20 episode, All in Vain, James suffers the slightest scratch, prompting a spectacularly over-the-top response, an unusual reaction for an unnoticeable flaw.
What is it?
Nothing, James. Just a little scratch on your paintwork.
Oh, a scratch. A scratch? That isn't nothing! I can't pick up the mail looking like this!
This only led him to make the situation even worse. In James's perspective, the red paint could act as a symbol of transformation and confidence. Any dirt or damage that it suffers signifies returning to his earlier appearance. The splendid red paint masks the harm of the accident and his previous self, any damage highlighting his insecurities. With that in mind, it does suggest that his anxiety has also made James develop body dysmorphia. This is a mental health condition where someone spends a lot of time worrying about flaws in their appearance. These flaws are often unnoticeable to others. This matches well with James's usual behavior, as he tends to act out upon his appearance being damaged. Unsurprisingly, this behavior has been heavily criticized by those around him, but they may not realize that this is how James is dealing with how he feels.
Your colour's nice, James. Pity about your face, though, said the truck.
Lastly is James's constant character shifts. Usually, James is very outspoken and never hesitates to voice his dissatisfaction.
Why, James? I'm the one who needs a new coat. Look at me. I'd rather not, retorted James. You're not a pleasant sight.
But when it comes to a crash, he has a tendency to become uncharacteristically quiet. Obviously, nobody would be jolly after a crash, but you would think James would complain to no end. For example, in the Season 1 episode Dirty Objects, after yet again becoming a runaway, he crashed into some tar wagons. James remained silent for the rest of the episode, not even contesting Toby and Percy's teasing. He silently accepted the Fat Controller's judgment that he was not fit to be seen.
He turned to James. Fancy letting your trucks run away. I am surprised. You're not fit to be seen. You must be cleaned at once.
This sudden shift from being confident to silent was quite out of the ordinary for James. This indicated that James felt very uncomfortable. Not only was he made fun of and getting remarks about his appearance, but he was covered in tar which was black, just like his original color. This most likely reminded him of his earlier appearance. The tar black masking over his red, which is also masking over his confidence, taking away his ability to speak. This is quite far-fetched, but this type of behavior might suggest that his anxiety has also possibly caused him to develop dissociative identity disorder. This is thought to be a complex psychological condition that's likely caused by many factors, including severe trauma. After his crash, his anxiety may have led James to develop a second personality to help as a coping mechanism. His first personality being his original quiet self, and his second being an overly confident, boastful, and narcissistic-like character, being a facade to cover up his true self. His actions are always of that to help cover up any leaks in the illusion he's created. After a crash, James loses control of his second personality, and therefore proceeds to lose all his confidence. What do you think? Do you think James's actions have a deeper meaning, or is it just that James we all know and love?
Hello, James. Sir Topper the Hat has asked me to be our rescue engine with you.
James gasped.
Why?
I'm a really useful engine. More likely he wants you out of the way. I am never clapped and cheered.
That's because you are a diesel.
And no one cares. Rubbish, Henry, snorted James. You don't work hard enough.
Excuse me, James. I think Rocky...
No! Thank you, Toby.
Really reliable. That's me, panted James. Pity the same can't be said for Percy.
You do. Oh, please. Being important is the only thing for me to think about. Ha!